Welcome, everybody, to Discover Your Ideal Body with Christine. I have a very, very special guest today, Micah DeSantis, and I'm going to introduce you to her. I'm going to read you a little bit about Micah. She is absolutely fascinating, and I'm really excited to have her today. Micah DeSantis is an energy healer and conception catalyst. Through her business, Life Sketching, as a Reiki Master and Shamanic practitioner, she assists clients with spiritual guidance and healing. Through physical touch, energy healing, and deep intuition, Micah co creates an empowered conception with a unique ability as a soul baby whisperer, often enabling a woman to conceive after only one session, especially women who have been struggling, who are diagnosed with unexplained, quote unquote, infertility by doctors. Micah graduated from Seton Hall University, leading her to careers in business and marketing. At the age of 28, she was diagnosed with MS, which forced her to shift gears, do a deep dive into her own healing, as things like this do. And this led Micah down a path of serving others on their personal journeys of self discovery and healing. Wow. Wow. Welcome, Micah. Take these glasses off now. That is awesome. So let's start talking about, I think I want to talk about the beginning. Can we start there?
Sure.
Because I'm intrigued about this MS diagnosis. And how did this start you down this path? What happened?
Well, it started me down the path because when I was diagnosed and because of my symptoms, I wasn't able to continue working. I was in sales for IBM, so I was doing a lot of traveling around and going to clients and things like that. And I wasn't able to do that anymore. So eventually I had to stop that. So from there, it led me to having more time to kind of delve into things that have always been a part of my life, but I never really had the time to kind of check them out in detail.
Okay.
And understand it. Yeah.
So when you say always part of your life, what do you mean exactly?
Well, I've had, kind of connection with the universe since I was a baby. And I had some kind of major things happen as a baby. So, I didn't understand it, but all the pieces started to kind of come together. So by the time that I was able to dive into this more, I could see all the pieces. I could say, oh, that was that, and this leads me to that. So from the beginning, it was always, it was a lot of dreams. It was a lot of messages I would get, things that would come true.
Wow.
Me knowing things, not knowing why I knew them, stuff like that. The typical story. I think a lot of people go through this journey, and then it's like, then you look backwards and you're like, oh, okay, that's what that was.
Yeah, but you know what? Typical for some people, but not typical for everybody. So really super interesting. So throughout your sort of self-discovery, you were able to sort of realize your abilities. Is that kind of what happened?
Yeah, well, it helped me realize my abilities in the sense of what I wanted to do to help others. And it also helped me with the MS. So when I was first diagnosed, I was in complete panic mode. I had no idea what was going on. I got different stories from different doctors, and everybody just wanted to like throw medicine at me and everything else.
Yeah.
And I did, and I took it all on. I was like, yes, give me whatever I'm supposed to take. And, so it took me a lot of years through that, but eventually it was like, no, there's certain parts of this that I can heal on my own. Yeah. And there's certain things that I can, I do a lot of work with like removing blocks and releasing things. So not fully knowing I was doing all this, but I was doing that on my own journey there. So I was able to, eliminate a lot of my medications and a lot of the things I was holding myself back from that I didn't really need to be holding myself back from, but my mind created it like it was real.
Yeah.
So I was able to kind of do more. Yeah.
That's powerful. I mean, I love that. And emotion, definitely the huge connection between emotion and disease, right? Energy and disease, and the benefit of looking into that. So I'm going to just skip a little forward because I'm assuming then you got better, right? So you worked yourself through. Are you, disease free? Are you, what's
it? It's such a complicated disease because I don't think there's a whole lot known about it.
Okay.
So I don't think I can ever really be declared disease free.
Okay.
I do like me personally, like I do wind up getting new lesions on my brain and things like that. But so that's kind of like the inward stuff, I feel like. And then the outward stuff, I consider myself disease-free in the sense of living my life and doing what I wanted to be doing.
Well, good. Well,
Yeah.
that's really wonderful. So let's talk about the soul baby conception. This whole thing about the soul baby whisperer is so fascinating. By the way, I saw a segment of Micah and saw a little bit about her, just a brief bit of her story, and was just blown away by it because I've never in my life come across anybody like you, quite frankly, and it's really cool and amazing. So, can you tell me what happened? What happens? How did it start? Like, tell us the story. I love this.
Okay. So I'll go back to when I was a baby. So when I was around 2 years old, for about a year, I would be having the same dreams almost every night. And I call them dreams, but I remember them, and I think I was awake for a lot of it. And when I was awake, I would hear things. So the dream was that I would be walking next to what I was calling the bad clown. So I was walking with the bad clown. He was holding my hand, and we'd walk by a huge glass house, and the glass house was filled with the good clown and babies. And the babies and the good clown were crying, and we would just be walking by. And this happened every night. And then I would be awake and I would hear things like, I would tell my parents, Flipper is up on the roof, because it sounded like flippers and I could hear him walking. It's very bizarre, but so this kept happening.
Yeah.
And, it's scary for me. I was 2,
Sure.
So I would tell people about it. And I have cousins who would pretend to fight off the clowns, when they saw me and stuff like that. But so it was a very known thing that this was happening. And then that,
no, I'm just thinking Micah and the clowns. Like, wow, yeah, that's incredible. Sorry, go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, so whatever. So that was about a year, and then it stopped, and life went on. But then again, like I said, I would have dreams and I would have things happen, but it wasn't that same specific thing. And then when I was in high school, my parents were like, okay, we're going to tell you what was going on when you were telling us about your dreams. And it turned out my father was having similar things happen to him, but, he was an adult and he was describing it differently, like about, having visitations or having these dreams or having these things happen to him the same nights I was telling them that I was having these dreams.
Oh my gosh.
So of course, my mother was like, you're both crazy. Don't tell me these things. What's happening?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So then life went on, and
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
About the clowns, because I'm assuming as a 2-year-old, you viewed it as a clown. Did your dad see it as a clown or as a person, or was it?
No, he saw more of whatever you want to call aliens or kind of galactic beings or.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know.
Okay.
At the time, I don't know if he knew exactly what he was seeing, but that's what it was. And I assumed that I was calling them clowns because they were, probably different colors or different shaped faces or whatever.
So for a 2-year-old, it looks like a clown.
Right.
Oh,
And then it was, and it was actually interesting because during the time, so after I knew about my father's dreams and stuff, I'm sorry, while I was still young, but I found this out later, my father had a dream that they came to him and said, you're going to do something for Micah. And the next day, we always went into this art gallery or this art shop when we would go get pizza. So we'd always walk around, and we were there, and there was a painting of the good clown in this art shop. So I was like telling them, I was like, that's the good clown. And he, in the painting, he's crying. And so my dad bought it for me, and we get it home and we look at the painter's name, and the painter's name was Micah with an H at the end. I don't spell mine with an H.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we're like, okay, there's our message.
Yeah. This is incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
Did you still have the picture, by the way?
I do. I don't know where it is, but I do have it somewhere in the house. I have to find that.
That's incredible. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Go ahead. I'm fascinated. This is go ahead.
So then life went on, and again, I was, doing my regular work. I was always in like business and marketing and things like that. And then again, when I got sick, and then I was able to, so I always worked with energy in my own way, I guess, but I never understood it. I didn't know what chakras were. I didn't know any detailed stuff about energy work. But once I stopped working, I was able to kind of look into that stuff more. And so I started that, and I became a Reiki Master. And along the way, I met somebody who's now a good friend of mine and a mentor to me, but we started talking about my life experiences, and the thing came up about my dreams when I was little and the clowns. And so she actually tied the pieces together for me. But I have to go back a step. I'm sorry. I forgot the most important piece.
I'm intrigued by the whole thing. Keep going.
Well, okay. So while I was again, I'm back in my working days, and I moved up. I got engaged, and we were living up here in our new house, and we had a party at our house. And my sister brought a friend with her, and her friend was telling me how she was struggling to conceive, and she was trying for over a year, and there's nothing medically wrong with her, but she just wasn't getting pregnant.
Yeah.
So I didn't know why I said it, but I said, I can help you. I said, but you'll have to have sex tonight, and whatever. She's like, okay, we're gonna do it. We'll do it here, whatever. And so this was before I knew anything about the energy work, and for whatever reason, I just touched her on her third eye. I closed my eyes. It was just seconds went by, and I actually saw a baby boy come through, and she went off, and they had sex, and she wound up conceiving that night.
What? Wow.
Yeah. And, and I said, oh, I saw a baby boy. And, my sister was like, no, she wants a baby girl. I saw the baby boy. Sorry about that. I didn't do it. So from there, my other sister asked me to do it, same thing. And then friends and family, whenever they were trying to get pregnant, I would do that same thing, and they would get pregnant. And again, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know. And I was touching them on their third eye, but at the time I didn't even know what a third eye was. So it was just something.
So you were like a woman's dream and a husband's potentially nightmare sometimes. Don't let Micah touch you. We don't need to get pregnant again.
Totally. My friends still and even when people come to see me, they're like, don't touch me. I won't touch you, I promise.
Oh God.
But so then fast forward. So then I stopped working, and then I started to learn about the energy work. And then I met this friend and mentor now. And so we were talking about all these pieces, and she said, well, that's what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be helping these women conceive. And when you were being visited as a baby, they were taking you to these soul babies, and you were learning to communicate and work with them. So she's the one that kind of put the picture together for me. Because I never connected what was happening with me doing this touch with what was happening when I was a baby and being with these babies.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I started doing that energy work, and then through that, I started getting messages from the soul babies. So through writing, I get messages, and then I can share those with my clients. And a lot of times they don't really make sense at the time. Sometimes they do, and then sure enough, it's like something like the next day. Usually something comes through, where they're like, "Oh my God, this is exactly what this
happened."
Yeah.
So you have these experiences, and then at what point do you say, okay, this is going to be my business. I'm going to put this into play. I'm going to create a website. I'm going to what point did you say, you know what, there's really something to this? Like where were you at? How many years ago was that? And what did that feel like? 'Cause that's a leap, right? To take that, you're taking this gift and you're saying to the world, yeah, this is what I do. Come get me.
Yeah. It's tricky, right? Because it's not normal.
Yeah.
So
traditional, that's for sure.
Yeah. So it always felt right to me. So for me to offer it, that was very natural. It did take me a long time to kind of verbalize what I was doing and really talking about it openly.
Yeah.
Not that it was secretive, but the success of the sessions were so big and powerful and real and tangible. Yeah. And so it took some time for me to get to that point where it was I can just say it and I can just live it without having to double check and second guess myself or make sure it's, and I guess we do that with a lot of things, but I think this kind of thing, it's so hard for people to grasp if they're not already in that mindset. And it's a leap of faith, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But that's what I love about it, and that's what I love when people come to me, and especially when they're trying to conceive, and a lot of times they'll come to me and they have they don't even think about souls or anything like that.
Yeah.
So even just that one piece, when I can connect them with a soul, or even have them understand that there is a soul, it shifts everything in their lives. It's not just that, whether or not a baby comes through right in that moment. It's this whole other layer that they can start delving into and understanding.
It's teaching. You're really a teacher for a lot of people who, it sounds to me, if you're not in that spiritual realm, or we know, some people are more than happy to go down different roads without even thinking about the alternative, or what, is there something else going on? Is there an energetic block? Is there, lifetimes of blocks, things that people aren't even, I want to say aware of, but haven't learned about yet, I'd say. But you sound like you're not only doing some healing, you're also doing a lot of teaching.
Yeah, I guess it's all part of the same thing.
Yeah.
And I guess that is healing in general a lot of the time, right? Because it's like you said, like looking at things differently, and every time we shift any little thing, it shifts everything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Is there like, I haven't prepped her at all with this. By the way, with all of my interview, you should be scared. I'm always like, we're not going to talk before we talk, because I like to be for the moment. Was there a profound session you can think of? You don't have to name the person, but something that came through about someone and then ended up coming into fruition? Just anything, that couple of examples, I don't know, whatever, you got there. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I could, yeah. So there's like the really big and extreme, and then there's like this. So for example, so a lot of times, so I work with someone, and it's a tricky conversation, right? Because it's delving into every part of a woman's life when they're on this conception journey. So there's a lot of things they don't want to talk about. So a big thing, of course, is abortion. So what happens is, a lot of times when a woman has an abortion and then later is struggling to conceive, there's all this like thing that comes up about blaming themselves and guilt and thinking they're being punished and things like that.
Right.
And it's not the case.
Right.
But it does cause a block, because you've created this whole thing about guilt and blame and things like that. So it is affecting it, but not the way that they might think. They're not being punished.
Right.
So I had a client who had come, and we had one session, and she came for a second, and it just kept like running through my mind. I was like, there's something there with this. And so I just brought it up very, not really about her, but I said, one of the things that comes up a lot is about abortion and stuff like that. And I said, so I have an exercise if you want to do it, and, blah, blah, blah. And she said, yeah, let's do the exercise. And she did. And then boom, she cleared that, conceived that night. But sometimes it's like very quick. And I actually had another client who literally, like, we went through the whole session. At the very end, I was like, you need to cry. And she's like, oh, no, I never cry. And I was like, okay, but you need to cry. And she had been trying. It was several years, and she like cried and conceived that night. So these don't always have to be huge things or a huge process to clear these things. Some of, not that they're small things, but it doesn't have to be difficult to get to the clearing part.
Understood. And does it always happen that they conceive that night, or does it happen that week? Or
it could be next month. It could be in a couple of months. It's always different, and it's just there's so many pieces to it. Like, so like that's why, like, especially when women are seeing like fertility doctors, and they're telling them unexplained infertility, and it's like, that's so unfair to put that label on someone, because now it's causing all this, and then they're rushing to go get different medical treatments and things like that, which sometimes it's needed, and it's great that it's there, but there's so many times it's not. So so what's hard is, I would love for the doctors to have all the other pieces in place too, to say, here's an option for you, but we can, them or someone else can help them work on these other things to get there, because there's divine timing, and there's other levels to this. And a big piece that I work on is having them communicate with the soul baby. So opening up those channels.
How do you do that?
so you do it like the actual like practice of it is pretty simple. Like I start off with having them write a letter to their soul baby.
Okay.
And have them write it pen and paper, like a real letter, seal it up. Nobody has to see it. And that seems very simple, but it really opens up the channel.
It sets the intention, right?
That's the yeah, and it sets the intention, and that's the thing. It's just, again, it's having that faith that it's out there.
Yeah.
And then just opening yourself to it, and you do something like that, like write the letter, but then you're going to get your messages, and you're going to get, and that's why it's interesting. The messages I get. I just had someone just a few days ago, and a message came through, and really random stuff comes through these messages. So two of the things that came through was it said, go back to skipping rope and put the seashell in the window. Totally random. And I gave it to her, and she's like, okay, I don't know what that is, but thank you.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, just that's for you. And then the next day she sends me a message, and she said, I just have to tell you, she said, that night my husband came home and said he ordered me a new jump rope because it was too short for him. She's like, and then I read him the message, and he said, yeah, he just put a seashell in the window from their wedding.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love that. Holy
yeah. So the thing is, it doesn't have to be that the message itself is life-changing, but it's showing you that there's something happening and there's a communication happening. It's kind of just confirmation of like, I'm here.
Wow. That's incredible. So do you have like a success rate sort of how much, about?
Yeah. I have to keep recalculating, but it's around 85%. It's probably, it's actually, it's probably a little higher. It gets tricky because some people, are on the journey for a longer period of time. Yeah. Not everybody comes back to me and says, hey,
sure,
I'm pregnant, and not everybody connects it back to any of the work we did. You know what I mean? So it just depends.
Yeah.
And then, some people who I might not have heard from, I'll hear from a year later, and they'll come back and thank me, and it just depends.
Right.
On the person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're able to, would you share like, what would a typical appointment-ish, I know obviously everybody's different, sort of look like? What would an appointment, if somebody were going to come in and they're interested in seeing you, what does that look like? What do they see you in person? Do they do it via Zoom? Is there any preference? What do you?
Yeah. So I do in person and Zoom.
Okay.
I love the in person, and the reason for that is like the energy works the same either way.
Yep.
I like the in person because I feel like people feel more comfortable to open up in person.
Yeah.
I think at least for me, it's harder on Zoom to kind of do that.
Connect.
Yeah. But the process is, so I actually call it the ARC process, acknowledge, release, connect. And for me, it's the same whether I'm working with someone who's trying to conceive or if I'm just doing a healing session in general. And that's acknowledging everything up to this point, things in your life, traumas you might have had, even past life stuff, ancestral stuff. So just acknowledging stuff. And we do that. So like, as far as when you're doing the session, like that's through discussion. So we're talking about these things. So I connect with my clients before I meet with them, like energetically. So I'll get a feeling, I get it physically. So like I'll kind of feel physically where there might be blocks.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so sometimes I get images, sometimes I get messages. So whatever I get, I bring into the session with me. If I'm working with someone who's trying to conceive, a lot of times I'll get the soul baby messages before I meet with them, but sometimes I don't get them until after. Anyway, so that's all part of like this acknowledge part, and we go through all that. And then the releasing part. So that there's a couple of different things, like I'll do imagery work with them. If there's specific things that we want to like really like clear out, we might do like a burning ritual type of thing. And then I do the Reiki-like energy healing. So if they're here, then they're on a table, I'm doing my light touch energy work. If it's through Zoom, it's the same thing. Like they kind of lay down and do whatever from their end, and I guide them through the process of the healing, and I'm doing that remotely. And then connecting, and that's connecting them if they're trying to conceive with their soul baby. If not, it's with their higher self, with their guides, with their angels, and just opening up the channels to that.
Wow.
That's kind of the gist.
That's a big gist, because then that probably takes a bit of time, because that's a lot of, you know, that's like a lot of processing, I'd say. Each step you
It is.
just mentioned is like a lot of processing through that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like there's something about it where like I feel like there's very strong need to do it all in one session.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, why do you do so much in one? I'm like, I don't know. It just feels like it's all meant to like be worked on at the same time. And then and there is a lot of processing that goes on. So sometimes people leave and then send me a message. They'll say, like, I've been crying all night. I don't know what's wrong with me. But it's just the energy realigning. And so to me, it's like a great thing. I'm like, I'm sorry that you're crying, but let this like integrate the energy and sure enough, it just shifts it all, and it's a whole different like view after that.
Yeah. I remember, well, I've heard this, not remember, but I've heard this a few times. Like Reiki practitioners will say when they give a session, it's like getting a session, right? So do you find that when you're doing this work, are you picking up on their energy, or are you able to sort of, yes, you pick up on it, but then you release it? Like, are you, I guess my question is, do you get like static, held up energy from people stuck on you? Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a problem. You have to be very disciplined, I think, to not take that on.
Yeah.
So I definitely find myself accidentally not kind of protecting my energy and managing that properly. Sometimes it's a good thing, because it's like the other day I had a session and we both came on, the energy of the day just felt very heavy, and she's like, it's been a really tough day, and I was like, yeah, I'm feeling it in the energy, whatever. By the end of the session, she was like so bubbly and happy, and I was too, and I thanked her. She was thanking me for the session. I said, no, I thank you, because you shifted my entire energy. So it definitely goes both ways, but it is something that everybody should be careful of. And that, and that's especially, again, working with women trying to conceive and going to doctors, is to protect their energy as they go into these appointments.
Yeah. Wow.
Because you take that stuff on, and it's powerful.
It's heavy stuff. Wow.
Heavy stuff.
Gosh, that's amazing. And so how many years have you now like been in practice, or been established in your location, or is it, how long have you been doing
it's been about it's been about 4 years.
4 years. Wow, incredible. Everybody in your area must know about you. I don't know. And if they don't, they need to know about you. I just feel like, gosh, if you're not tapping into what Micah's got going on, geez, you just need to be doing it anyway. God, Lord, that's great. That's so exciting. And you have a website, you have an Instagram, Facebook, right? You have all of that stuff?
All of that, yep.
Is there anything, one last thing, that you would want people, or women in particular, to know on this journey? Is there something that, one kind of overall concept you just want to, like, I don't know, key them in on, that's really super important?
I would say that they're creating their reality, and that they can empower themselves to direct this where it's going to go. And also to not attach to how you're going about getting to your outcome.
Oh, huge. The attachment. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is, that's a big, I think that's usually the biggest problem for most of us, right?
Absolutely.
We ask, but we ask under terms, and that doesn't work like that.
Right.
We have to ask and be open. So that makes a lot of sense. And I just want to point out something super important that you mentioned also. I had another interview with Dr. Rod Shelberg, and he made a comment about practitioners. He said something he was diagnosed with, and he felt he had to school the practitioner. He himself was a doctor. And something you said, which is, doctors, be really careful how you're imparting information to your patients. If it's this doom and gloom prognosis, or like, you're only going to conceive if you do, these injections and then get these eggs from another individual, you're already like putting them behind the 8 ball, so far behind, but having a more of an optimistic viewpoint, and also having something in your toolkit, like alternative therapies, like what you do, that can really play a part, is so important. I don't know. I know that doctors aren't doing what they want to do right now these days, in a very corporate structured kind of medical system we have. But I think if there's any practitioners listening, just remember, being open or offering an open conversation to somebody and not being so doom and gloom goes a really long way with a patient.
Yeah. And, that ties back into when I was diagnosed with MS, and my doctor at the time said to me, don't join the support groups. And at the time I was like, okay. And then when I went back to him, and he said, you don't want to get sucked into where like that's all that's on your mind all day. You don't want your life to be the MS. You want your life to be your life. And it's true even with on the conception journey. And it's great to have the support, and it's great to touch into these groups, but don't make it your life, because then it stays your life.
It stays your life. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. Really good advice. Really fascinating information. I thank you so much for joining me today. And I think what you do is wonderful. And I hope that somebody out there reaches out to you and gets some information and can connect with you. And you're located in Connecticut. What part of Connecticut are you located in?
I'm in Weston, in Fairfield County.
Connecticut. Okay, so for me, not far, like an hour and 5 minutes in Cornwall and Hudson. That's New York. So who knows? What are we doing anyway these days? We don't have a lot of plans. Hop in the car, take a drive, go visit Micah. You never know what can happen. I thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate everybody for listening in today. We will have Micah's information listed below this video, so you can contact her yourself, reach out, maybe get an appointment if you want one. Please like and share and subscribe. I appreciate you all. Namaste. Have a great day. Everybody be well. Thank you, Micah. Take care, everyone. Thank you.